Hello, everybody. Dr. Rick Wallace here, um, coming at you this morning. Hope that you've gotten your day out to a good start. Those that view this in the AM, as for me, as usual, spent the first part of my day prepping and priming for what is to come throughout the day. Something that I teach my clients consistently. And I advise everyone to do how you engage the first part of your day. There's a saying that says you win the first hour, you win the day. Um, but actually, as little as 10 to 15 minutes of the first part of your day, I mean, immediately when you get out of bed, uh, if you're one of those people that need to brush your teeth first, go ahead. But immediately when you get out of bed, before you start engaging things, before you start to let your mind wander into all the things you've got to do today, before all of life comes at you, set your state. Take 10 minutes to set your state. I teach people how to prime. Me personally, I normally do it for anywhere from 30 minutes to an hour. Um, but you can do it in as little as 10 minutes. You set your state. I build my state. I try to reach an optimal state every morning because I know I'm going to be going up against challenges. I'm going to be running into fires that I've got to put out. There's so much demand on your life when you're going after something that's huge. The demand on you is great, and you have to be prepared for that. And you're better suited to deal with it when you prime, when you set your state. Outside of hitting the alarm on my phone, I don't scroll my phone, I don't open my phone, which is a part of maintaining my personal sovereignty in the beginning of my day. I don't let any outside ideas, outside thoughts, outside influences, text messages, inbox messages, and emails or anything like that dictate how I'm thinking. I want my gratitude to lead my thought processes. I want the I want that part of me to be everything that it needs to be in order to do what I want to do. And I encourage you to do the same thing. Today, I want to talk to you about something that is immensely important. You know, you can look at a person and see the path they're taking and pretty much predict where they're going to be in the future, what their outcome is going to be by the life they're living, by the decisions they're making, by the direction they're heading in. And the wonderful thing I love about life is that no matter what path you're traveling down, there's always an opportunity to change. If you don't like the results you're getting, if you don't like where it pretty much is inevitable you're going to end up if you don't do something different, you're not stuck on that path. You're not stuck on that road, no matter how many decisions you made in the past, no matter how dark it gets, no matter how much you've allowed to pile on top of you. You're not stuck where you are, but there are some things you have to do in order to exact lasting and powerful change in your life. It doesn't come easy. It's not something that you're going to be able to sit there and say, okay, I want to change. The idea of using willpower, which is a conscious mechanism to do something, will work initially. And if you don't do it consistently enough in the initial process to where it becomes a part of your subconscious programming, it won't take. That's why you get people who quit all the time, quit working out, quit their nutritional diet, quit relation. It's got to be something that's a part of your programming. Your programming runs your life. Your subconscious mind runs 96% of your life every day. 96% of your day is on autopilot. That's why you'll see people and you're looking at them and you're wondering, how could they have done something that just seems so obviously crazy or stupid? And it's because it was a part of their programming. Everybody is programmed by the information they intake by their environment. What I want to talk about is how you can change your future, how you change your destiny, how you take control of your life. And I want to talk about it from a unique perspective that I don't talk about a lot here, but I do consistently with my clients. But because of the intricacies of it, and I tend to just focus on things that people can pick up in watching a video once and kind of say, okay, I'm going to try it at least. This is something that you probably need to work with someone who is an expert in, but you at least need to know how powerful it is in your life so that you see the value in working with someone who understands it and who can help you, or researching it if you're one of those do-it-yourself people, putting in the work and the research. Now, obviously, that's going to take time, and time may not be something you have, but that's an option. But it's something you need to understand. Um, there's a term called psychosomatics, which is a Greek term with the term suki and somo. Suki meaning mind, somo meaning body, and so it talks about how the mind impacts the body. And so what we've known for years through psychosomatics is that how you think and how you perceive life is going to have an impact on your body. If you have a positive outlook on life, it's going to produce a better body. If you have a negative outlook on life, if you are constantly in a state of anxiety, constantly in a state of worry, constantly in a state of stress, it's going to have a negative impact on your body. Now, what we know over the last 60 or 70 years through the study of epigenetics, especially over the last 20 years, is that all of this is a genetic process when you talk about the mind. Now, the moment that you begin to stress, the brain triggers the body to release certain hormones. The two most prevalent is adrenaline and cortisol. Cortisol, in the moment of a real true threat, is absolutely necessary. It helps you regulate the stress. It helps you deal with the stressful situation or the threat. Everybody comes into a stressful moment where their body takes over, and that's what happens. But when you consistently find yourself in a state of stress, that's known as chronic stress, and it's absolutely detrimental to your health. And I'm going to tie all of this together as how health and success are tied together. But okay, so what we know now, though, is epigenetics, which is simply a science that studies everything above the DNA sequence in genetics, meaning that things that influence genetic expression but do not change the DNA or the genetic sequence, we call it epigenetics. It's an environmental a process that's environmentally influenced. Your environment influences your reality. How you perceive things and how you think on a daily basis based on your current environment and how you perceive it is going to dictate ultimately what type of health you have. Also, it's going to dictate how you see life and how you move in life. The problem is that with over 80% of the people, and maybe higher here in the US because of this Western culture and the demand for instantaneous gratification, the demand for quick fixes. People are stressed out because everything is happening fast. And if it doesn't happen immediately, we lose ourselves, we get caught up, and we start to stress. We start to trigger the most primitive part of the brain that says, hey, you're not safe, there's a threat, and we are literally living our lives as if we are under immediate threat physically, which is what that response is for. It's to get you to a safe place, to either defend yourself or to run away from harm, fight or flight. But most of us spend a large portion of our days in fight or flight. And what we don't understand is that it's having a psychosomatic impact or effect on our bodies. And then as our bodies goes, because keep in mind, this is actually going back a little bit. Keep in mind, I want you to put at the top of your understanding that we are at our best in our ability and capacity to perform when we're in a state of homeostasis. What homeostasis is the equilibrium that is found when the mind, the brain, the body, the soul, the spirit, the emotions are all working in harmony. So if you're in an elevated state, mentally, emotionally, spiritually, and you're in an elevated state physically, then you're at what is known as an optimal state. It's homeostasis. That's where you perform at your best. Everything is in alignment. Anytime something comes out of alignment, it puts added stress on those things that remain at their highest point until it starts to pull them down. Now, what epigenetics talks about is the ability of your environment to either regulate or downregulate genes. In other words, epigenetics influences the expression of genes. It can open a gene and activate it, or it can close a gene. It can downregulate it. What happens when someone gets a disease, whether it's cancer, whether it's diabetes, whatever, it's actually the result of an upregulation of a gene that produces the environment for that type of meiotic or cellular, what's the word I'm looking for? Anyway, when that type of process happens, basically what you're experiencing is a mental state that is perceiving a certain reality a certain way, and it's producing a situation where certain genes are upregulated. Well, the way that I actually got into epigenetics was studying multi-generational trauma, how trauma is actually transmitted through generations. And so it was always initially looking at the negative side of epigenetics. You know, hey, look, traumatic experiences, traumatic environments turn on genes that create bad health. But at the same point in time, when you have these emphatic epigenetic tags, which are imprints on your genes that literally cannot be washed away through the meiotic process, which is the reproductive cellular process of reproduction, where cells reproduce themselves, but also clean the tags. Well, what nature did is said, okay, what we're going to do is we're going to allow the newborn of the species to be free of the trauma, all of the things that are imprinted upon your cells in every cell. We're going to clean it, and that through the meiotic process. The normal process of cellular reproduction is meiosis, but mitosis is the regular regeneration of cells, and meiosis is the reproductive process in which cells are reproduced and regenerated. And in that sense, the epigenetic tags are supposed to be washed away. However, we find that when these tags are the result of very emphatic and heavy trauma or emotional experiences or environmental experiences, they tend to be passed on. So that's one of the ways we pass on trauma. But what I also was able to find by studying and reading and following some of the extant data that's out there while I'm conducting my own research is that what's always true, if there's a bad side to something, there's a good side to something. There's always an opposing opposites. It's called polarity. It's the opposites of two. It's the same spectrum, but two different ends. And so what we found is where there can be an upregulation of genes that produce disease, that gene can also be downregulated, and the genes that create a healthy body can also be upregulated. So literally, you can heal yourself through the way you look at your experience, your environment, and the way you think. So your mind is extremely powerful, and we start to learn some of this through the study of the placebo effect. And what we found is the placebo effect is when a person is taking medication that they believe, they're taking a pill that they believe to be medication that will work on whatever is ailing them, but it's not medicine. It's simply a sugar pill or some form of a placebo that has no effect on the body whatsoever. And so over time, and as little as 6 weeks of people taking a pill that they thought was medicine, they become completely healed. So we find out that the healing is actually in the belief that you're healing more than it is in the medication. Of course, Big Pharma doesn't want you to know that. They want you to consistently take things that are synthetic, and the body was never designed to process synthetics. That's why you get all of the side effects that come with taking synthetic medications, things that were created. The body is designed to take in things that already exist naturally. And there's always something there that works, but it starts with your mind. Now, again, we're going back to the epigenetic influence on health and how health is associated with success. Well, if you're constantly engaging an idea, the idea creates an emotion. Everything you've experienced in the past produced an emotion. Now, if you are consistently waking up every morning with the same thoughts, with the same ideas, with the same focus and going through your day, if that happens to be a focus on negativity from things that have happened to you in the past, you're living your experience. What you're actually doing is reliving your past every day and producing the same results that you've always produced. And that's having a negative impact because you're dealing with constant negativity. That's having a negative impact on your health. Well, what you're doing is you're literally anchoring yourself in your past with your emotion. You wake up and the first thing you think about is all the things you go on, and you get this emotional feeling, an emotion that's connected to a negative experience in the past. Now that emotion is running your day. Your body has become your mind, your brain. It's actually conducting your day. You're living and being guided, not by the processes of your mind and the unlimited potential of what you can produce with your mind, but by your past experiences. And the thing about it in studying trauma is that when you're doing that, you are literally reliving it. The emotional experience is so intense that you're literally reliving it. You're not remembering it, you're reliving it. It's the same scent, the same smell, the same horror, the same feeling in the pit of your stomach. And it is producing an effect that's regulating genes that produce disease. That's how people get sicker and sicker. And so much of this, and I don't want to try to overload you, so I'm going to skip some of it. But like I said, I'm going to probably do, a webinar or something on it, so we can go at least 2 or 3 hours into understanding epigenetics. But here's what happens: the moment that you decide to wake up and embrace a new idea that's positive, and not embrace the idea or the thoughts that trigger these emotions that take you back to this place that cause you to consistently relive it over and over again and produce the same results. The moment you embrace a new idea, you now have the ability to reevaluate your environment. So now your environment, even if there's something going on wrong now, your environment is viewed differently because you're changing the way you look at it. So if I'm sitting up and I'm in a bad environment, the physicality of that environment is real, but how I look at it will determine how my body experiences it. If I look at a situation and say, this is fleeting, this is passing, this is temporary, this is not my life, this is not how I will be defined, this is not the end, then it changes how my body will perceive it, how the energy will receive it, how my genes will be regulated. If I look at it and say, hey, look, and the thing is, I can create this idea without it first existing. You can actually get ahead of the gene. You can actually signal your genes that you want to upregulate and signal your genes that you want to downregulate ahead of an experience. What do I mean by that? I mean that you can come up with an idea of where you're going. You have a clear vision of where it is. The clearer the vision, the more emotion it will produce. So you get this clear vision, this clear idea of where you're going, not where you're at, where you're going, what you're going to do. Now, the beautiful thing about it is the mind does not have the ability to distinguish between past, present, and future, and it doesn't have the ability to distinguish between what's being imagined and what's real. So when you put an idea in your head, you're thinking about where you're going, but you're seeing it and you're envisioning it, and your brain is interpreting it as, this is where I'm living now. And if you go back in the past and you start looking at all the things that went wrong, your brain doesn't say, man, that was bad back there. The brain says, we're experiencing this now. That's why you don't keep revisiting your bad things. And that's why when I'm talking to other therapists, when you don't have to take a person back and take them step through their processes. Yeah, if they need to talk about it, we need to talk about it. We need to address it. But the more you take a person back, without giving them the ability to process where you're taking them to, you expose them to it again, and their brain senses that they're there again. That's why you get the erratic behavior. That's why you get the outburst. That's why you get so much that you get when you're dealing with people who are suffering from trauma. What you want to do is you want to contextualize it. You want to frame it. And there's so many different ways to do it. So I don't want to lock in an idea, but you want to frame it. But what you want to do is create a new possibility. You want to create an environment in which they can live their lives and they can be functional. Well, whether you've been traumatized or not, bad experiences and bad memories are not what you want in your head. What you want in your head is, okay, I'm going to use what I've learned through my experiences, good and bad, to create an understanding of what to do and what not to do. But I want to give myself a new idea of where I'm going. I'm giving all your vision is, when you see something that you want to become, all that is the blueprint of what you're going to work out in life. Now, when that's associated with a purpose, it's real powerful because you're driven outside of just saying, I want it. It's something inside of you that's driving you. And it's almost like you don't control it. When you find your purpose, when you find your work, your assignment, the thing that you were designed to do, there's a power that's pushing you. You can call it passion or whatever you want to call it, but it's pushing you. But the beautiful thing about it is when you can see it, all your dream or vision is a blueprint of your work, of your assignment being worked out so that you can see it in your mind, because we're very visual. So we're image driven. We see things and we have an idea what it is. When you think, you dream, it's always an image. And so you have this image of what it is and you create this idea. Now, the beautiful thing is the brain cannot distinguish whether you're in the future or whether you're now. It only knows now. The brain sees everything now. And so when you're able to live in the future, you're able to calm yourself. When you're able to create a reality that's better than the reality you have now, most people will probably say, well, that's just escapism. No, you can't become something until you see it. And the emotion that is generated and created by being able to see it and literally experience it is the powerful force that puts you in motion to accomplish it. If all you're ever doing is being anchored in your past situations, your past memories, your past experiences, you never create a new future. You simply relive the old one. Your old experiences, your past. So what you have to do is create this new emotion, that comes with a positive idea that you embrace, and you consistently engage it until it becomes entrenched. And the more you engage it over the course of time, like I said, with the placebo effect, for instance, anywhere from 6 to 8 weeks, these people had experienced significant improvement in their health. Well, the same thing happens with you in your life, in your mental, emotional health, but also your physical health. Now, the thing is, why is physical health so important to success? Because success demands that you commit yourself to things. And when you are putting yourself into something to be something better than you've ever been before, it comes with challenge. It comes with demand. It comes with waking up earlier, sometimes going to bed later. It comes with being able to take on sometimes some very intense moments. And the more healthy you are, the more your body can take. Let's look at it this way. Every time you go through an experience, your body a negative experience, your body down regulates. Well, the genes that are healthy down regulate. So if you go through a traumatic event, say you start at 100 and you go through a traumatic event, you get a phone call and you've lost a close relative. It'll drop maybe 10 points. And depending on the relative, if they're very, very close, it could drop 20 points. Okay, now you're there, and say, for instance, you haven't worked on building that back up yet. And then something real major comes on. And now you've got this situation that's even more traumatic. What happens? You drop down. Now, say there's this line that is at the halfway mark. So once you drop below that line, now you're completely down regulated on your healthy genes, and you've upregulated a lot of genes that are responsible for the disease. For instance, on average, the most common forms of cancer take about anywhere from 12 to 14 genes to be upregulated and activated so that they're expressing what they do. There are genes for disease, there's genes for health, there's genes for strength, there are all these different genes that are responsible for doing something. Disease takes place when the disease gene is upregulated. Well, it takes normally about 12 to 14 different genes to be upregulated in order to get cancer. That tells you that there's a lot that has to happen. That's why two people can be exposed to the same environment and the same carcinogenics and all of those things, and one gets cancer and the other don't. One smokes cigarettes for their entire life, never gets lung cancer. One smokes cigarettes for a couple of years, gets lung cancer. And you're asking why? Well, it's where they were when they started to apply whatever negative forces in life that downregulate healthy genes, whether it's smoking, whether it's just a succession of bad news, whatever it is. So what you need to be is, the healthier you are, the more you're going to be able to engage the challenges of life and not be knocked down to where you are now down regulating your heavy genes. All down regulation means you're turning a gene off. Up regulating meaning you turn a gene on. You want to up regulate your healthy genes. One of the most powerful ways to do that is how you think. Create positive thoughts. And I'm not talking about simply wishful thinking. I'm talking about establishing a true path for yourself that you are committed to living and seeing the benefit of living that on a daily basis. Some people sit up and say, this is what I want to be, but they never think about it. They never envision it. They never put it in their mind. They never have an idea of what that looks like, what that feels like. They just know, hey, it would be nice if I never had to worry about another bill in my life. So it would be nice to be wealthy. It would be nice to have an unbelievable relationship with a person that I can fall in love with, and we can support one another. We can do this, but you've never really truly visited what that looks like, what it feels like, and that experience. So there's nothing there to drive that. But when you come up with an idea, you know, and I've experienced each one of these things, so I can tell you how it is. When I was deciding, okay, I'm not going through another divorce. So I'm going to go through this. You know, if I meet somebody, I'll see how it is. But I'm going to really prepare myself for my wife. Now, part of that was preparing me. It was getting myself ready to be everything that I could be. But at the same point in time, it was sitting up having a clear understanding of what my wife looked like, what it would feel like to be with her, how it would feel to have that type of person in my life. So I knew. Now, here's the awesome thing about this. It gave me clear purpose, and it moved me towards being there, because I knew that I couldn't have the type of woman I wanted if I wasn't the type of man to pull her, to attract her, and to keep her. So my thing was, a big part of me was improving me, but it was also being aware. So I spent a lot of time every day in the presence of my wife, though I had not met her yet. And and the thing is, here's the thing, and obviously she did the same thing based on the conversations we've had. She did the same identical thing, maybe in a different way with different, using a different vernacular. But the idea was, she was preparing for me. When I met my wife, you know, she had to make space for me. Literally and figuratively, she made space for me. She had already. So what happens when you do that? First of all, now you're living in a place in your mind, and creating this realistic environment daily that's saying, this is who I am. And even though you have not experienced it yet, you are experiencing the emotion. It is the emotion that is upregulating and downregulating and creating your environment. So it's so important. Now, here's the thing. The awesome thing about this is, because I've experienced the emotion of being with my wife years before I met her, because every day I visited it. When I did meet her and we started to engage each other, I recognized her right away, because she triggered the emotion. So many people don't recognize opportunities because they never visited them before they actually experienced them. They never set up and said, you know what, this is what it feels like to be wealthy. This is what it feels like to be in a loving relationship. This is what it feels like to be an awesome parent. This is what it feels like to be a business owner. They've never, ever visited that, to sit up and say in any certainty what it feels like, you know. And so the brain isn't aware of it. The body isn't aware of it. So when you run into it, it's alien to you. And as a matter of fact, because it's a new feeling or new emotion that you've never felt before, you'll actually sit up and say, that really didn't feel right. What you're actually saying is, it didn't feel familiar. Your body got this feeling, you know, you got the nerves in the pit of your stomach in a negative way. And you're trying to figure, it's just simply your body saying, you got me in a place I'm not used to being. It's not that it's bad. It could be bad, but it could be good. But it's saying it's new. That's all when you say it doesn't feel right, you're really saying it's new and I don't recognize it. Well, what you want is, if it's something you really want in life, you need to know what it feels like before you get there. You need to experience it. That's the beauty of having your imagination. Your imagination allows you to visit a reality before you experience it. It allows you to literally signal genes that you want to upregulate. It allows you to signal those genes before you actually reach the experience. Meaning that if this is the experience you need to have the best health, the best performance, the best life, you can start living that life before you have the experience, by simply visiting it in your imagination. That's how people get from point A to point Z in whatever area they want to be successful. They sit up and they say, this is where I'm at, that's where I want to be. And they get the clearest idea of what that is. Then they start to visit it on a regular basis and ask themselves, what will it feel like to be here? I mean, how would it be to have a person that supports your vision? How would it be to have a person that respects who you are? How would it be to have a person that's loyal to you? All of these things that I visited. And then when I started to think about what each one of those felt like, the emotion took over. And then my brain is sitting up saying, hey, she's nice. Not, she doesn't even exist yet. But the brain is saying she's nice because it can't distinguish between what's imagined and what's real. So now I'm experiencing my wife before I ever met her. So when I meet her, I know her because I've already experienced her. So that when she triggers that emotion, I'm like, this is her. And my wife will tell you, it wasn't long after I knew her, but we didn't know each other romantically. She was a client. We did what we did. She moved on. And later on, we came across each other. And I was like, hey, man, let's do this. And here we are. We're still moving. But it's because I knew the feeling. And see, the thing is, I was never looking for anyone perfect. I was looking for one that would be perfect, a perfect fit for me. And, you know, when I got that feeling, that was her. It was like, okay, no need to play around with it. I mean, it's never going to be something where it's perfect. So I'm not looking for all your flaws. I need to know if there's anything significant there, but I've counseled you. So I know you. So I know what's there, and all of that I'm good with. We're going to grow together. We're going to build together. It's going to be something, but it all started with an idea. An idea. That's how you change your life. Embrace a new idea. People, you know, and people downplay it, but everybody that I've ever followed that went from, I mean, poverty or single parent household, not knowing their family, I mean, just so many things that people think lock them into a substandard lot in life perpetually. Everybody, I don't study people who were born with a silver spoon in my mouth. I don't have a problem with them, but I can't relate to them. So I study people who started at the back end and worked their way up. I study people who all of the markers said that they weren't going to be successful, and yet they are. And what I can tell you is that there is a point where you have to see yourself being successful in whatever it is in life before you're there. So if you want, you see yourself healthy. When you see yourself healthy, you start to behave like healthy people. When you see yourself healthy, you're more acting towards protecting the health than trying to get healthy. So when you see yourself healthy, you start eating healthy, you start exercising, you start thinking about what it is. And you know, the most extreme person I know is a person that says they want to live forever. And there's no evidence that that's possible. We live in a transitory world. You know, your energy is transmitted and transformed or transferred, but at a certain point in time, the body gets old and dies. But this person eats like, trains like, they want to live forever. They are that focused and tuned in to saying that I don't think life stops at 100. And we're starting to see people live longer now with the greater focus on what we eat and being more active and getting out of sedentary lifestyles. And you know, and I'll be honest with you, it's a challenge for me because almost all the work I do is sitting at a desk or sitting at a conference table or whatever, or you know, when I'm lucky, walking across the stage as I speak. And now with technology, a lot of the conferences that I do, I can do online. And so everything, but it's so much different and energy different too when you're doing it in person. But you know, everything is about convenience now, which in one way provides this leverage, but in another way, it disconnects us and it takes away the force and the energy of actually engaging things head on directly in person. But that's a quick side note. But at the end of the day, you have psychosomatics, which is the general explanation of how the mind impacts the body. I mean, stress is like one of the most devastating forces, and stress comes from the way you interpret your reality. Now, you have one person that'll be going through the same thing as another person. One person is totally out the game. They're dysfunctional. Their health is declining. Their performance is declining, and they're headed for an early grave and a miserable life. And the other person is sitting up saying, hey, this is making me stronger. This is making me better. If I get through this, I'll be better than I was before I started going through this. And I will be able to do things that I can't do now. This is simply a part of my process. I'm built for this. And I tell you all the time, that's my mantra when I hit something hard. I'm built for this. I will not, I mean, I keep telling myself, if it's big enough, I have to tell myself more than once. But most of the stuff I come to, I just look myself in the mirror and say, Rick, you built for this, so get it. Sometimes I tell myself that 2 or 3 days in a row, several times a day, until my brain kicks in and remembers we have never met anything that we haven't overcome. And so we got this. And not only am I going to get through it, I'm going to be better for it. So now I can add context to an environment that on the outside looks bad, but on the inside, I see it as being good. Why? Not because of the pain that I'm going to experience or the difficulty, but what's going to come out of it. In other words, same reason I go in the gym and do what I do, because I understand that that pain that I'm experiencing, no matter what exercise I'm doing, is producing a result that I want. It's not that I enjoy the pain. Now I've trained myself to embrace the pain, to leverage the pain, but it's not that, hey man, I feel like hurting today. No, I want to be stronger. I want to be better. I want to be more healthy. I want to get to a point that I am literally in love with the way that I'm taking care of myself. And that's the journey I'm on now. More than money, more than anything else, is to have myself at the optimal health. And those who know me know there was a scare 2 years ago in October. This is the first of this month made the second anniversary of the worst health scare I've ever had. And so my thing is, now I'm on this journey, you know, and I'm embracing just really, really, really being what I know I can be from a health perspective. And it's really, you know, I had to really have a talk to myself with myself. Hey, you can't be this well versed in the area of health, mentally, emotionally, psychologically, physically, and spiritually, and not be on point in all of those areas. You just can't be a beast over here and then you suck over here. That's not how it is. And you're capable. And so now there's this challenge. You're capable, Rick. This is who you have to be. And so that's what I became first in my mind. And now it's a process. And when I get there to where I feel like, okay, this is what it feels like, then I'll raise the bar. But first you have to have a vision. And that idea has to be different than what you've been thinking all the other days you wake up. You have to have a morning where you wake up and you see something better for your life to start improving, for you to change your future, for you to recreate a destiny, to rewrite what's out there. You have to wake up and there has to be a new idea that says, hey, this is who I am. And that new idea will create an emotion. When you visit it enough, when you give it enough clarity, when you give it when you integrate it with the belief that it's possible, the moment that you say it's possible, the emotions start. Because now you're saying, if it's possible, I can do it. What do I do next? And now you get excited. And you can do this with anything you're trying to do. But the thing is, you create the environment. And based on the environment you create, you're either upregulating good genes or downregulating good genes and upregulating bad genes. And that's how disease starts. Everything can be regulated. It's epigenetically influenced, and a lot of it we don't understand. Now, here's the thing that you really should be aware of. If you are thinking of having kids, understand that you can genetically pass on epigenetic tags that make them predisposed to certain traumas. You can also pass on epigenetic tags that have traumatic memory. And we learned that when studying the European Jews who went through the Holocaust in Germany. When they came out, and the next generation that was actually born after the Holocaust were literally having dreams about experiences that their parents had that they had never been told about. I'm telling you that we are some genetic marvels. And in that marvel of that we exist as, is this unbelievable and limitless power to be what we desire to be. But we have to be aware, and we have to take control. We have to stop waiting on someone else to fix it. We have to stop waiting on life to happen. We have to stop waiting on the perfect moment. It doesn't exist. We have to sit up and say, this is the life I want for myself. I am now declaring it. And when you declare it, it establishes it in the fifth dimension. And now you can see it in your mind. You can't touch it yet because it's not yet in the third dimension, but it's in the fifth dimension. And now I can see it, I can touch, I can see it, I can feel it. Most importantly, because that emotion is setting the state. If you're in a constant state of a low frequency, a low emotional state, low mental state, it's because of the way you are engaging your thoughts or producing your thoughts or creating your thoughts. Change your thinking patterns, change your thought patterns, create ideas that are what you want instead of what you've been through. It's unbelievably powerful. Okay, I'm about to get off of here. Before I get off, there are two reminders. First and foremost, for the remainder of today only, I am offering my platinum one-on-one coaching package at 50% off. That's an entire year of weekly sessions where we determine what it is you want and we set the path and we work on it weekly. An entire year is 50% off. And I'll tell you, only the serious need to even consider it. But if you're really serious about it and you're willing to make that commitment, you need to reach out to me today. Or you can go on, there's a place at the link where you can literally click the link, go. It'll show you how I perform my basic coaching. It doesn't give you the details and the intricacies of what I do, but it shows you how I set things up and how I work with some level of detail. And then it gives you all the packages from the bronze through the platinum. But the platinum package for the remainder of the day is going to be on sale. I don't like that word sale, but it's going to be offered at 50% off. Also, if you want to take advantage of the other promotions in the description box, do that. Whatever you do, at least visit the description box or the post box and see what's there and how you can take advantage of it. You'll be surprised at what you can get out of it. I'll leave it at that. Finally, I'm going to do what I always do. I'm going to challenge you to live your life on full. My goal every morning when I wake up is to live my life on full. And at the end of my life, I want to die on E. I don't want to leave anything left undone. I don't want to leave potential that was never accessed and activated and actualized. I don't want that. I want to just wake up every morning and make every second count. And I'm challenging you to do the same thing. Life is fleeting, but you're not here to just move through it. You're here to be a difference maker. You're here to be an impact. You're here to change lives and change the world. You're here to make sure that the world isn't the same place you inherited. And that's a responsibility that requires you to stand up and live every day on full. That's my challenge to you. With that being said, I'm going to get off of here. Have an awesome day.